So JSN, who there's an argument he's the best receiver in football right now, JSN of the Seahawks, he is now eligible for a contract extension, and he'll talk about that in a second. But, you know, this is the downside to winning the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to get paid, and most want to get paid a lot, and they want to get paid early, and he certainly is worthy of it. So that's why you have to take advantage of these windows that open. So this year and next year, the Seahawks are stacked. But it should be noted, Sam Darnold's cap hit goes from $13 million this year to $38 million next year. It triples. And that's still reasonable when you look at the quality of play from Darnold. But Kenneth Walker, probably not a Seahawk next year. And Kenneth Walker was Seattle's MVP in the Super Bowl and huge through the playoffs. He has a history of getting banged up. He was healthy and productive through the playoffs. So the Kansas City Chiefs, they seized the moment and they seized the window. The Ravens didn't. The Seahawks did. The Lions and the Bills, who we thought were Super Bowl worthy teams, now they're suddenly over the cap, and they're going to have to move off some really good players. So I think the Baltimore Ravens window, they didn't hit it. It'll be harder now. Lamar's getting a new contract. Joe Burrow, making real money, cheap ownership, not a great front office. His window's closed. The 49ers, to me, Brock Purdy now, go look at his cap hit. They've missed on too many draft picks. I think their Super Bowl window is closed. So there's two teams in the league that are on the clock, the Bears and the Broncos. Excellent quarterbacks, both on the rookie contracts, excellent, clever offensive coaches, well above average rosters.
Consider this perspective. When an organization operates with precision and efficiency, sustained success isn't just a possibility. It becomes an expectation. The Philadelphia Eagles have served as a prime example of this reality. The Los Angeles Rams, to a significant extent, also fit this mold. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs represent a somewhat distinct case. Undoubtedly, they've consistently found ways to prevail. However, I'd argue their situation is fundamentally different. You observe a parallel narrative with someone like Tom Brady. When you examine the dynasties built around figures such as Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Bill Belichick, it becomes clear that those are exceptionally rare circumstances, outliers in the larger landscape of the league. Nevertheless, if we focus on the current construction of a team like the Eagles, the equation is clear. Your most favorable opportunity to secure a championship was undoubtedly this past season and potentially the next. But here's the unavoidable reality. Financial obligations catch up with you. You are compelled to compensate your talent appropriately. The inherent difficulty in managing these financial commitments while simultaneously constructing a competitive roster is precisely what elevates football's excitement level above that of basketball, baseball, or any other sport. The genuine challenge, the significant burden of allocating funds to a premier wide receiver alongside an elite quarterback, is what makes the system so compelling. It's this very mechanism that fuels the NFL's remarkable competitiveness and parity, explaining how a franchise like the Seattle Seahawks can emerge, seemingly out of nowhere, to capture a Lombardi trophy. Truly, this structural integrity is the engine behind the league's unpredictability. Think about it. If financial constraints didn't exist, the Rams would likely have retained Cooper Kupp. They would have still pursued and acquired Davante Adams, all while having Puka Nacua on the roster, simply declaring, "We're keeping everyone." If there were no salary cap, or if the financial landscape were manipulated to make roster management considerably easier, that organic turnover wouldn't occur. The necessity of making difficult strategic choices is the very element that makes the NFL exceptional. That is its greatest strength. And while the most obvious window of opportunity often coincides with a quarterback on a rookie contract, the much-discussed fun stuff, the broader point stands. As mentioned, the Eagles and Rams demonstrate this principle. Even the Rams' situation has unique contours, as they acquired Matthew Stafford at a relative value given his performance level, largely influenced by his age and the circumstances surrounding his previous team. To me, this underscores a crucial point. Sustained contention requires demonstrable organizational competence. It requires a proven capacity to consistently draft and develop talent, navigate free agency effectively, and make astute hires for coaching staffs when necessary. This is precisely why teams like the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals face such steep uphill battles to maintain their contender status. Conversely, examine the Eagles' approach. They committed financially to Jalen Hurts. They structured deals to accommodate A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, and Lane Johnson. They proactively made aggressive moves. They compensated their key players fairly, without necessarily seeking discounts, demonstrating a mastery of roster management. This brings me to a point I emphasized when the Eagles secured their Super Bowl victory. The objective should not be fixated on achieving a consecutive championship. I urge you not to be seduced by that particular storyline. That's a misguided focus. The real objective, given a roster infused with youth, exceptional coaching, and talents like Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and a strong core on both sides of the ball, is to capture another title within the subsequent 2 or 3 seasons. That should be the singular organizational focus. The question isn't, how do we do everything possible to win back-to-back? It should be, what strategic decisions maximize our chances of winning another Super Bowl over the next 2 to 3 years? Sometimes the optimal path to a championship within that time frame does involve winning the very next season. But the mindset is critical. Don't fall into the trap of the back-to-back narrative. Don't let that become the driving force. From my perspective, that line of thinking is fundamentally flawed. It's a distraction. The focus must be on sustainable excellence. What moves can we make right now to position ourselves for another championship victory within this 2 to 3 year window? How do we evolve into the absolute best version of this team? That strategic approach might necessitate difficult choices. It could mean we need to part ways with a particular player because it allows us to invest in a draft prospect who, while perhaps not an immediate upgrade in 2026, positions us strongly for a title run in 2027. That's the calculated perspective required. That's the lens through which these decisions must be viewed. However, there's a delicate balance. You cannot perpetually defer success. You cannot operate under the illusion of an infinite window. This is why I consistently emphasize the 2 to 3 year framework. You avoid pushing critical decisions too far into the future. The notion of a guaranteed 10-year window of contention is equally, if not more, fanciful and unrealistic. Don't subscribe to that narrative either, as it's often promoted but rarely materializes. For instance, when the Detroit Lions organization suggested they possessed a 10-year window, my reaction was one of healthy skepticism. The unpredictable nature of player health, performance, and team dynamics makes such long-term guarantees impossible. Consider Sam Darnold's situation. In a few years, his compensation will increase substantially. This isn't solely due to projected rises in the salary cap. He will command a contract worth at least $200 million. It's difficult to predict the exact financial landscape a few years out, but it's reasonable to assume that a $200 million deal could eventually be viewed as a bargain. By then, elite quarterbacks might routinely sign for $300 million. Regardless, Darnold will undoubtedly earn significantly more than his current contract. The sentiment of, well, he should be grateful for this opportunity, misses the mark. He revitalized his career in Minnesota. He found success in Seattle. He's now a Super Bowl champion. I'm not suggesting he will aggressively pursue the title of highest paid player in NFL history, but he certainly won't accept a modest $25 million annual salary. He'll still be at an age where he can confidently demand a significant payday, likely the last major contract of his career. Having never truly experienced a substantial financial windfall, and having now validated his abilities on the biggest stage, he's in a prime position to secure that bag. Of course, predicting the future trajectory of these situations is inherently complex. I was particularly interested in hearing Colin Cowherd's take on these matters. I sensed he navigated the topic carefully, likely due to his affinity for the Seattle Seahawks. He delivered a characteristic monologue, and I anticipated his conclusion. His argument essentially was, don't overpay for star players, citing lists of top-tier wide receivers, defensive ends, and running backs who haven't won championships. My consistent counter-argument is that this logic can be applied to virtually every position. If you examine the highest-paid players at any position, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, pass rushers, you'll find that only a handful are Super Bowl winners. The correlation between being the highest paid and winning a title is weak across the board. It's a flawed analytical framework. It's an ineffective way to evaluate roster construction. The proper approach is to scrutinize the organizational structure and the philosophy guiding team building. Frankly, it's considerably simpler to analyze well-run franchises. Diagnosing the issues plaguing a team like the Cleveland Browns is an entirely different challenge. If the solutions were obvious, you'd be a general manager yourself. It's far more instructive to observe and learn from organizations with proven track records. Examine the operational methods of the Rams, the Eagles, or the Seahawks. Focus on those consistently well-managed teams. This is precisely why I tend to categorize the Chiefs separately. Their success after moving on from Tyreek Hill is often cited as a template. See, they traded their star receiver and kept winning. But that situation was highly specific, exceptionally specific. Yes, they are a well-run franchise, but they also have Andy Reid. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Steve Spagnuolo. They had a prime Travis Kelce. They possessed a unique combination of foundational pillars that enabled that transition. You cannot simply extrapolate their actions and prescribe them as a universal solution for every other franchise. The context is everything. If your organization already possesses a core of elite talent, a Hall of Fame caliber coach, and a franchise quarterback, your decision-making process operates from a position of strength. That's why the focus should remain on identifying truly well-run organizations, not those whose success is temporarily propped up by a singular individual, whether it's a transcendent quarterback, a brilliant coach, or a perfect symbiotic relationship between the two. Consequently, I'm genuinely intrigued to observe the Seahawks' trajectory over the next few seasons. The stakes are incredibly high. The repercussions of their decisions will be profound. Those are simply my observations on the matter. I'm very eager to hear your perspectives. What is your assessment of the Seattle Seahawks' current situation? How should they navigate this offseason, particularly concerning their impending contract decisions? Obviously, securing Jackson Smith-Njigba long-term seems like a non-negotiable priority. There appears to be no realistic alternative there. But I'm genuinely curious about your outlook. How do you anticipate these situations developing? What are your thoughts on my central argument, that the focus should be on winning another championship within the next 2 to 3 years, rather than obsessing over a back-to-back narrative? Please, share your opinions in the comments. I make it a point to read every single response. Whether you align with my viewpoint or challenge it, let's foster some engaging dialogue. Let's have some spirited debates. Ultimately, the goal is to share our passion for the game and have fun doing it. And please, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. We're cultivating an incredible community here, and I genuinely value your participation. My aim is to build something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we're all truly excited to be a part of. I believe we're making significant progress toward that goal. Also, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. It significantly boosts visibility and helps the algorithm. Thank you so much for your time and engagement.